Hi guys, welcome back to See Jogo. To give you a little clue of where we're going today, we have lavender in the background, and you know which country is well known for lavender fields? France. But unfortunately, we're not going to Provence where we have these beautiful lavender fields. We're going somewhere that I think everybody knows, and this is probably the most popular place that most people want to go to, and that's Paris. Paris is actually the second most visited city in Europe. Can you guess what the first is? I'm gonna give you some time to type it in the comments. Don't cheat, don't Google it. Just I really want to know where you thought, because I thought Paris was actually number one, but it's number two. So which country or which city rather do you think is more visited than Paris? Okay, it's actually London. And for me, Paris was actually the premier place that I wanted to visit, and I had a great time. But I've actually laid off on sharing my experience in Paris because sometimes I wonder, like, how relevant is it? How helpful would it be? Because I actually, disclaimer, actually went to Paris 14 years ago, a long time ago. So sometimes I feel like, is it relevant? But then I'm like, I think it is because it's my experience, and I think everybody's experience is relevant. So I'm just sharing it, and I hope that it can actually shed some light on things for you. But just bear in mind that this was 14 years ago. So a lot of things have probably changed. But at the same time, when I contemplated whether or not I should do this, share my experience, I was like, some things haven't changed. Like, for example, the main sites, right? Because it's a city that primarily is based on history, a lot of things would still be the main things. Like the Eiffel Tower, for example, is still a big deal. I'd imagine that like socialization is probably different in terms of representation, in terms of maybe how people relate to each other. I would imagine that also the food scene is different. There's probably a lot more things available from many different cultures. So everywhere is becoming a bit more international. So yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's just probably even more exciting than when I went. But here's my experience in Paris. Bienvenue à Paris. So yeah, when I went to Paris, I went with two girlfriends. So I wasn't in a relationship. I would say it wasn't that romantic experience for me. So if you're looking for a romantic experience, sorry. The next disclaimer is I was broke because I was a student. So this was really a very cheap budget trip. So if you're trying to visit Paris on a budget, maybe this is a video for you. If you want the luxury experience, unfortunately, I didn't have that, but maybe you can still pick up one or two things from my experience there. So first of all, let's talk about where we stayed. Again, we were students. So we stayed at somewhere that was pretty much like a youth hostel. It was dubbed a hotel, but maybe you'd call it a 2-star or 1-star hotel. However, we were comfortable because for me, when it comes to accommodation, unless I'm going to like an all-inclusive place where I'm going to spend most time in the hotel, if I'm going to sightsee, I'm not really picky about the hotel once it's clean and once it's safe. Once I'm not seeing rats or roaches, I'm okay. Once I have a safe place to lay my head, because that's basically what I'm doing there, right? So yeah, in Paris we stayed at a kind of hostel place. It had bunk beds. It was 3 of us, and we spent 25 euros per night for the whole room. So not each of us paid 25 euros, but all of us, the 3 of us, paid 25 euros per night. So that was really great. In terms of the cost to get there, I went from England to Paris, and that was about 75 or so pounds round trip. So again, I don't think the cost of like visiting has changed significantly, because like when I've looked up fares, it's kind of comparable if you're flying within Europe. What did we do in Paris? So the typical things, we went to see the Eiffel Tower, which was really nice. I think I was shocked because it was taller than I imagined. That was the first surprise. Second surprise was that it lit up. I didn't know that it does that. So it lights up in the night, kind of like a Christmas tree, and it sparkles on the hour, every hour. And that was really nice. The next thing that we saw the outside of the Louvre, but we didn't really have the money to go see Mona Lisa. So Mona, I'm sorry. Hopefully next time I'll come and say hi. But yeah, we just had to look on the outside, and I took pictures of the sign that said, Musée du Louvre, and stuff like that. But I still felt super fancy. The thing for me is just being in Paris was enough. Like, I don't know, maybe because I was young and I knew I didn't have a lot of money, I was just happy to be there. Everything still felt very enchanting, even though I didn't have the fully immersive experience. So yeah, we saw the Louvre Museum from the outside. We also saw the Notre Dame. That was another beautiful place to see. Unfortunately, you may or may not know that the Notre Dame had a fire in 2019, so it's no longer accessible to the public to go inside, but there's still parts that are remaining. So in terms of getting that history, getting that experience, you may want to still go and visit and snap some pictures in front of it. I've heard that the inside is absolutely beautiful, but also didn't go inside because, again, saving money, right? But outside was enough. So where did I actually spend money? Because I've just been saying I've saved money. So what I did was we did a nighttime cruise on the River Seine, which I highly recommend doing it in the night, because Paris is known as a city of lights, even though it's not because of how beautiful it is at night. It's because it was one of the first European cities to get electricity. But anyway, it is beautiful at night because it does light up. And at the on the River Seine, you have like these bridges that become illuminated in the night, so it's really very sweet and very romantic. No, you have these really expensive, fancy boats that, I saw them and I was like, goals. Like, when I get money, I want to do that, right? They had like these like elegant cruises, and there was live music with like violins and that type of a thing. And it looked like it was a 3-course kind of deal. That was very expensive. But what we did was we did a typical nighttime cruise. I think our tickets could have been like about maybe €9. It wasn't very expensive. And we just went up and down, and it was nice because it was still beautiful. And that's where we actually saw the Eiffel Tower from a distance, like lighting up before we actually went close up. So that was really nice. So I definitely recommend a nighttime cruise, whether you have the money to do the lovely live music 3-course meal one, or if you budget it out like us and just enjoy a nice relaxing stroll up and down the river by boat. Okay, another really nice thing to do is to see Chateau de Versailles. Guys, for me this was a highlight because, and that's where I spent money. I spent money on the tickets. It's not in Paris, it's outside of Paris, but it's about 1 hour and you can reach there by public transportation. So it's definitely feasible if you're spending a couple days in Paris. I thought it was magnificent. It wasn't my first time seeing a palace, but it was my first time seeing one that just looked like it came straight out of a movie. Like, I was just struck with awe. I was just like, wow, I was like, thank you God for this experience. Like, oh my gosh, it was beautiful. It felt so enchanting. I felt like royalty. It was beautiful. I think for me, what got me was the courtyard. Like, the palace itself is nice and huge. It's vast. I don't know how anybody could live in there. But the courtyard, like, I could live in the courtyard because I love nature and it's so beautiful, like such beautiful views. So I definitely recommend Chateau de Versailles if you're somebody who's into history, if you like fairy tales, if you like nature, for sure, go and see it, right? And then also, you will want to see the Arc de Triomphe, right, at Champs-Élysées. That's also really nice. That actually had me more in awe than the Eiffel Tower. I don't know why. I didn't expect it. I was shocked, but I think just seeing it and how big it was and standing in front of it, that was really exciting. So those are my recommendations in terms of what to see, what to do. And then for what to eat, I think with that there's a budget list, which is what I followed, and then there's an ID list. So speaking to people who have gone like after me and who had higher budgets than me, I've heard of all these things they've had, and I'm like, I didn't even know that existed when I went. When I went to Paris, things were very different because there was no Google Translate, there were no Google Maps. So thankfully I spoke a bit of French, and that helped us a little bit to like find our way around and order food and that type of a thing. But there was no Google Maps. So like everything had to be like a guidebook, and we had to rely on that. A lot has changed, a whole lot. So information is now much more readily available. So I'll tell you, I guess, first what I had. Is that better? I'll tell you what I had first, and then I'll tell you like what I think is the ideal list, like if and when I go back, what I'd like to have. So what I had and what I liked, first of all, was chocolat chaud, which is hot chocolate. And so I went to a cafe. I was like, I have to go to a cafe. It's Paris. I must. So I went. It was interesting because I didn't know that I had to pay extra to sit outside on the terrace because I wanted the real Parisian experience of, people watching and looking at little poodles walking by and stuff. But I had to pay extra, and with my student budget, I said it's fine. I'll have it inside. But chocolat chaud was really nice. It was relaxing, and I enjoyed that. Also, I had duck confits, right? That was nice. Crepes, of course, you gotta have crepes. I had banana and chocolates, and that was nice. And then also I had pain au chocolat, which I fell in love with. That's like bread, which has a nice like dark quality chocolate inside, and I enjoyed that. So those are some of the things that I had. I also was able to have a shrimp lasagna, I think it was, and that was also good. Okay, so that was the student list, okay, of what's affordable. Now, in terms of things that you may want to try if you have a bit more money to spend, definitely macarons. At the time, I didn't really know about macarons, but I think now everybody knows macarons. But here is the birthplace of macarons. I think you really want to get real macarons. Also, eclairs is another sweet treat to try. I mean, Paris is really well known for pastries, so lots of these things are sweet. Also, cheeses. There are over 200 cheeses in Paris, so get cheesy and have some fromage, okay? fromage. Yeah. No, the thing is that what I really appreciated about this trip and traveling as a student was that it taught me some values that I still maintain with me when I visit, because I am always trying to see how I can save money. Now, what I liked about this trip was it taught us that, one, it's always great to book a hotel where you get breakfast, because it takes some of the stress out of finding breakfast, especially if you're not a morning person. You can just quickly do breakfast and go and see the city, right? At least some days, not necessarily every day, but at least some days. The next thing we did was we went to the supermarket and we got some food, like those pain au chocolat, right? And different things like juices and snacks. And so what we did was we carried those with us on the road, and we had that like for lunch. I think one day we just sat in the park and we just had our snacks. And then what that meant was we had enough money to have a nice proper meal. So we went to a restaurant once per day. We had breakfast at the hotel, and then we just like carried lunch or snacks to keep us going through the day. And that's something that I still maintain. Like if I want to save money, or if I want to spend more money on like seeing sights, if it's a city where there's a lot to see and I really want to go inside, because now I try to go inside and not just see everything from outside. So I learned that that's a really good thing to do. And yeah, I mean, I still enjoyed it while on a budget. So I think if you go to Paris, you'd have a good time. I mean, the thing is, like, Paris has this like really, really high standard, from it being just all over the media. I think it's really beautiful. I mean, I loved it. It is not my favorite city to date. I hope to share that with you guys soon. My favorite cities, there are about two of them. But Paris is definitely amazing and I love it. And I hope to go back when I am not so broke so I can enjoy the finer things of Parisian life, right? If you get what I'm saying. That would be really nice. But I definitely recommend Paris. I mean, honestly, guys, I can't say that there was something I did not like. What I will caution you though is that for persons who have gone more recently than I have, I've heard that it's quite dirty. I've seen videos of like rats around. I've heard that it's really, really expensive, that, the cost, like I think especially of hotels and stuff, has like skyrocketed. That's quite possible. But again, I think budgeting is always possible. Now there's a wake of like Airbnbs and there are cheaper options that I think exist. So I wouldn't say like price is something that you should let scare you away. Do your research before, talk to people who have been, and find out some options. So my recommendation for Paris is actually 10 out of 10. I love it. And I mean, I guess the question would be, well, why haven't I gone back? It's been 14 years. See, I have a little weakness. I like to go to new places. So even if I love somewhere, I'm like, but I could go somewhere else. So I haven't quite gone back to Paris yet. But I definitely want to go back. And I actually think it's interesting because I'd love to compare that experience with a more current experience and share that with you guys. And like, how has Paris changed over the years? That would be really fun. Paris is highly recommended on my list. I hope you get to go because I think everybody wants to go to Paris. And also, if I'm wrong, please correct me. If Paris is not like on your list, can you please tell me below? Because I mean, if there's somewhere else, I'd love to know, where would you really like to go? Like, where is number one on your list of places to go in Europe? I would love to know. So thanks guys for joining me for another episode of See Joe Go. And I look forward to seeing you next time to see where we go. Bye.